Jacqueline West, costume designer on Killers of the Flower Moon. I understand that Leonardo DiCaprio first mentioned this story to you when you were working on The Revenant. So what did he say to you and what was that conversation like?
It was very short. We were shooting a big scene on The Revenant, and he said, "Oh, I just heard about a project that I think that you and Jack would just be great on," meaning Jack Fisk. And I didn't really know anything about it at the time. He didn't really expand on it. But later I had heard that he had gotten the rights with Marty to do this. And when I realized it was going to be Marty, I hadn't worked with Marty before. So I thought, oh, that might have gone away. I was so happy when it came back.
Mhm. Do you know if he recommended you and Jack to Marty?
I know, I think Jack said that Paul Thomas Anderson, because Jack had done There Will Be Blood, had mentioned him to Marty. And I've never worked with PTA, but he, when Leo finally came in for his first fitting in Oklahoma, I said, did you have something to do with this? He said, "You came highly recommended."
There you go. See, well, because this was also before the book was released, so I'm assuming you read the book once it was out. So what was the whole research project like before you even got on board? And then you obviously did a lot of
Ironically,
research before you even started filming.
Ironically, Monica Haynes, who's my key women's costumer and was on this movie, she's done a lot of movies with me, gave me the book. She also worked on The Revenant with me and different films I've done. And she said, "Oh, this would be such a great film for you to do," and gave me the book way before I ever thought of doing the movie. So yes, and then once Marty Calder read the book again, we were up at our house in Deadwood, South Dakota, and fortunately there's so many incredible Native American libraries. The Carnegie Library in Deadwood has an incredible Native American section, as does Prairie's Edge in Rapid City. And the Rapid City Journal let me into all their archives from the 20s, and they pretty much covered all of the Great Plains, even down to the Osage. So I had fabulous, um, you know, um, fabulous research photos I could draw on. Plus, the Osage, being the richest per capita people in the world at the time, could afford $1,800 a minute home movies, as probably only the royal family in England could afford. And so they documented their lives. And Marianne Bauer started sending me home movies, and I discovered some online. And Marty has a wonderful producer researcher, Marianne Bauer, who started sending both Jack and me many pieces of research, which we melded into our own. And then Jack and I have shared on 10 movies. So it was a big, it was a big thing, the research for this. For once, I didn't do sketching. I relied all on old black and white photos or screen grabs from home movies or
Wow,
or news footage from the time.
that's fascinating. And I know you also worked with Julie O'Keefe, who was the Osage consultant. So when did she come into the picture? And what was that collaboration like?
I got there in January and started, it was massive builds because the Osage have never really been portrayed in a movie in this very authentic, realistic way. And you don't find those costumes anywhere in a costume house. Or we made everything, and I had to enlist Pendleton to reproduce the blankets from back then because it's different color palettes now, and the colors were quite different that the Osage tended towards. So I had to get started very early, hit the ground running when I got there. And I think Julie said she first came to our office beginning of March, maybe late February, I can't remember. But she was sent by Chief Standing Bear, and I'd never worked with a consultant before, and she was wonderful. First of all, she loved how the research was organized, how we organized the Osage research, and how intricately how much we had. We had them arranged by traditional, modern and traditional, and modern. And then we had all the townspeople, both, the Osage Trading Post, all the people that were coming and going from there, car dealers, the Gray Horse Mercantile was like it was like Harrods in the 80s, right? Or the 70s for the Kuwaiti oil-rich population coming through London. Well, they had their own incredible Harrods. They sold Pierce Arrow cars. They sold, funeral caskets. Tiffany had their own installation. And Julie came in and she was impressed by all the research, but what Julie brought was something unique. Not only did she know the subtleties of, there's 6 ways a woman can wear a blanket, depending what the situation is. And she brought all that subtlety to me. Also, she knew all the best artisans, Osage artisans, even kitchen artists, women who sat and reproduced ribbon work or beadwork in their kitchens that had been, the art had been passed down from their mothers, grandmothers, their aunts. And then she also encouraged all the young women working in our department, Osage women, to bring family photos dating back to that time, stuff you wouldn't necessarily find online, that because they could afford studio photographs and they traveled so much, that they had a lot of tourist photos taken. So I could see how they looked when they traveled or when they really dressed up. It was brilliant what she brought to us. And not only that, it gave, I think, the actors a real sense of security, especially Lily, that Julie was there on hand to really bless, how she was wearing her blanket each day, or, how her Rabanka pins were put on, and just what I kind of made Lily a closet of all the pieces I thought she would have. We made her all in-house, even the wedding coat, but she would go and, ask Lily exactly what you're doing in the scene when she would come back from private rehearsals. Lily would tell her, and then she'd say, okay, I think you should have your blanket folded this way.
It is a great blanket movie, but what you just mentioned about her wedding jacket, it was so striking because I don't know, I guess maybe I was expecting her to just have another blanket for the wedding, but it's this military jacket. So what's the history behind that?
Well, in the early 1800s, Osage Council went to visit Thomas Jefferson, and the United States, it was a peaceful, delegation, and the United States still wanted to show its might. We were still in that mode, and all of his officers, military officers, were there in the room, probably, what would be the Oval Office today. And one of the Osage chiefs noticed the coat and said he admired the coat, right, that one of the generals was wearing. And Jefferson had him take it off and give it to the chief. But the chief was very statuesque. The Osage are really statuesque, magnificent people. They're quite tall. And so this coat was way too small. He brought it home to probably, I'm not sure if they were already in Kansas. I think they might have been in Kansas still, but brought it home and gave it to his daughter. His daughter proceeded to take something that was military and to represent might, and turn it into something joyous, and made it her wedding coat, along with a top hat that came from Washington, D.C., which they removed the top and put hackle feathers in and around with French ribbon, decorated the coats with Wabanka pins, ribbon work, put it over blankets with sashes made of Osage finger weaving, and it evolved through the years into this very, very ornate traditional. I know you've seen the pictures of them, but it's
Yeah.
quite, all those skirts all involve ribbon work or embroidery work, woodlands, because they're descendants of the woodland tribes, um, woodland embroidery, woodland beadwork, ribbon work, which is very Osage particular. And as I said, the finger woven belts, and we made them all in house. And Julie brought all the extra pieces that would have to be traditional Osage artwork and look new, not things from trunks, but because it would have been
Yeah.
made new for that wedding. So that's
Yeah.
how it evolved. And then the Osage are quite generous, so they would make several. And sometimes the brides would have to be carried in a blanket because they could hardly walk because they were so generous. These weddings cost $50,000 then, which would be $1 million now. And they would give away all their wedding coats and all the layers to people who helped with the wedding. One chief gave away 9 Chevrolets at a wedding. Wealth was not mentioned on what you had, but what you could give away.
Right. Well, they were all incredible, and just it's just stunning how they just use that and like turn it into something of
Joy.
their own thing. Yeah, for sure. Well, Jacqueline, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you back here in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.